So I heard from somebody this week who was told that their SIBO, or small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, was caused by snacking. So in this video, I just want to help you understand how this is a possibility and steps you can take to avoid this, since SIBO can create a wide variety of health issues. So just so you know that I didn't get this from a Paw Patrol coloring book, we're going to go over some studies here, and I'll have links to these studies in the description below so you can dig into these a little bit more if you want to. So when we're understanding things that can create SIBO, we need to understand the migrating motor complex, or MMC like all the cool kids call it. And basically this is a process that happens in between meals that comes through and sweeps out any undigested food debris as well as bacteria. So a lot of people feel like when this process is not working correctly, then it's not going to sweep all this bacteria out, and then the bacteria will accumulate in the small intestine, and wham bam, we got SIBO now. So when we're looking at this happening between meals, we'll look at this study here on the migrating motor complex, control mechanisms, and its role in health and disease. And they say the migrating motor complex is a cyclic, recurring motility pattern that occurs in the stomach and small bowel during fasting. It is interrupted by feeding. So if we're interrupting this MMC process by feeding, then it's not going to work correctly. This study goes on to say the physiological role of the MMC is incompletely understood, but its absence has been associated with gastroparesis, intestinal pseudoobstruction, and small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So when we're looking at snacking, that is a form of feeding. And when this study is talking about fasting, that doesn't mean a person needs to fast or use intermittent fasting. Just that time period in between meals allows this MMC to function correctly. Let's look at this study here on small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And they say during periods of fasting, a migrating motor complex develops approximately every 90 to 120 minutes to sweep residual debris through the GI tract. Several studies have demonstrated that abnormalities in the MMC may predispose the development of SIBO. So it's well understood that when the MMC is not working correctly, that the SIBO is more likely to show up. But what we need to look at is the fact that some people really feel like they need to snack, or they can't even function as a human being, and they're going to yell at the mailman just because they don't like the shorts that he's wearing. So if your doctor is telling you to snack, remember, I'm not telling you not to snack. I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving anybody medical advice. I'm basically a professional stand-up comic turned nutrition author, because when I lost my voice for 8 years and 23 different doctors couldn't figure that out, I had to dig for my own answers. So now for 20 years, I've been teaching health professionals in more than 40 countries how to help their clients fix the actual underlying causes of problems instead of just covering up those symptoms. But we'll have these studies below so you can figure out the right questions to ask your doctor. But if a person feels like they need to snack to function and they're an adult human, then there are things that are going wrong. There are malfunctions in the digestive tract, or some type of imbalance going on that's causing them to need that fuel constantly throughout the day. So the most common issue is digestive malfunctions that are restricting their ability to break down protein correctly, or emulsify or break down dietary fats. Those proteins and dietary fats are kind of like a slow burning log on the fire that should sustain us through the day. Or a person might be eating a low-fat diet, or maybe they're not eating enough protein. Maybe they're living in the 80s where they're still scared of dietary fats. Maybe they have a mullet. Maybe they still break dance. I'm not really sure. But if you're eating a low-fat diet or not eating enough protein, that's a mistake that needs to be corrected. And in a lot of cases, people kind of gravitate towards eating more carbohydrates because they're not breaking down protein correctly in the stomach. They don't have enough stomach acid to do that correctly. Or their bile is not flowing correctly to allow them to break down and emulsify. Shut up, phone, I'm talking about snacking. But if there are malfunctions like this hypochlorhydria or low stomach acid, or the bile's not flowing, that can be corrected, and then the person would not need to snack as much. Maybe somebody has hypoglycemic type issues where they're having sugar crashes in between meals, and they really need to correct that. I'm not going to dig too far into that in this video, but we'll have a link in the description below for our video on how to fix hypoglycemia if that's a problem for you. There's often just imbalances that are going on that are either making a person process carbohydrates too aggressively or making them burn through those carbohydrates too quickly. But those imbalances or issues can be corrected. And if you're new to this channel, you don't know how to do all those things, we'll have a link in the description below for our totally free digestion course, and that can walk you through figuring out which aspects of digestion are not working correctly and steps you can take to improve those, as well as imbalances that could be creating trouble with the way that you're processing specific types of foods. But when you can correct those things, now a person doesn't need to snack. So we really want that 4 to 5 hours in between those meals to allow that migrating motor complex to come and sweep all the junk out. And what's interesting about these different aspects is that when we look at this study here, they say that the two processes that most commonly predispose to bacterial overgrowth are diminished gastric acid secretion and small intestine dysmotility. So they're saying when someone doesn't have enough stomach acid, which is very common, millions of people turn off stomach acid on purpose on a daily basis. Some people are just stressed all the time, and that can restrict the body's ability to make stomach acid. There's a variety of things that can go wrong, but when that's not there or when things aren't moving through, both of those issues seem to have the ability to open the door to SIBO problems. And a lot of people will say, oh, well, I have SIBO just because I have slow motility, or my MMC doesn't work just because I have slow motility. But your slow motility is not like you weren't handed that. That's not your personality. There's malfunctions like low stomach acid that are creating that slow motility. And a lot of people feel like, oh, I had food poisoning, so that's why my MMC doesn't really work. So understand that snacking is not the only thing that can disrupt the MMC issue, and this food poisoning certainly is an option. I go into Dr. David Pimentel's work a lot in another video that I'll point you to in a second. But what we want to look at is that snacking is pretty easy to just stop doing. We can just remove that and fix anything that's creating your need for snacking. And now you remove that problem of the MMC. And then if there's other issues like low stomach acid or other things that are restricting it from working correctly, then you can fix those things as well. So the fix is really going to depend on what's creating the trouble for you. If snacking is the only thing, you can just stop the snacking and you fixed it. But in the other video, I go into a lot of other details that can create problems with the MMC, and I go over all the studies that indicate why that can be an issue as well. So if removing the snacking is really hard for you, check out that free digestion course, and that'll walk you through how to fix those issues that are creating that need for snacking. And if you want to learn more about other issues that can restrict the MMC from functioning correctly, you can jump over right now and check out our video on why your MMC is broken. I can't wait to hear about your results.